Welcome to Barbara's Bulletin, the podcast where we dive into the latest global news and trends. I'm your host, Barbara, and I'm excited to share today's top stories with you. In our first segment, we're taking a closer look at the complex situation unfolding in the Middle East. Recent developments have raised questions about Israel's military strategy and its impact on the region. According to reports, Israel has been expanding its military presence in Syria and Lebanon, citing concerns over security threats from Islamist groups. Now, let's break down what we know so far. The Israeli government has shifted its focus from pursuing a cold peace and normalization with its neighbors to prioritizing an end to all security threats in the vicinity. This includes banishing Hamas into exile, disarming Hezbollah, and keeping Syria under constant vigil. But not everyone is convinced that this approach will yield the desired results. Some experts argue that Israel's growing military assertiveness could have counterproductive effects, potentially strengthening extremist groups like Hezbollah by providing them with an excuse to maintain their arsenal. Meanwhile, US President Trump has been making headlines with his unconventional approach to Middle East policy. In a surprise move, he lifted sanctions on Syria despite objections from Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. This development has raised eyebrows in diplomatic circles, with some wondering if the U.S. president's actions will undermine Israel's security interests. As we navigate this complex and ever-evolving situation, it's essential to consider multiple perspectives and avoid taking sides. At Barbara's Bulletin, we're committed to providing you with balanced and unbiased reporting so you can stay informed and form your own opinions. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. We're glad you're joining us again for this in-depth look at the latest news stories. Today, we're examining a developing story that's raised questions about ethics and gift-giving in the highest echelons of American politics. US President Donald Trump has announced plans to accept a $400 million airplane from Qatar, sparking a heated debate about whether this gift is allowed under U.S. law. To break it down, let's start with the basics. The U.S. Constitution includes provisions that restrict the president from receiving emoluments or gifts from foreign governments. These rules are in place to prevent corruption and undue influence. Now, some might argue that accepting a gift like this airplane could be seen as a violation of these constitutional provisions. On the other hand, Qatar's Prime Minister has defended the offer, stating that they will withdraw it if it's deemed illegal. It's also worth noting that there are precedents for U.S. presidents accepting gifts from foreign governments, such as when President Barack Obama received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009. To delve deeper into the legal aspects, we can look at the Foreign Gifts and Decorations Act, which sets requirements for gifts to U.S. officials. According to this law, gifts worth less than $480 can be kept by the president, while those exceeding that amount may be accepted on behalf of the United States, with the government retaining ownership. However, the situation is not without its challenges. Previous lawsuits related to emoluments have been dismissed due to issues with legal standing, leaving many questions unanswered. The Supreme Court has yet to address these matters directly, adding to the uncertainty surrounding the president's decision. As we consider this complex issue, it's essential to approach it with a fair and balanced perspective. While some may view the acceptance of this gift as a potential breach of ethics, others might see it as a gesture of goodwill between nations. Ultimately, the outcome will depend on how these laws are interpreted and applied. We'll continue to monitor this story and provide updates as more information becomes available. For now, we want to hear from you. What do you think about President Trump's decision to accept the airplane from Qatar? Share your thoughts with us on social media using the hashtag #Barbara'sBulletin. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. I'm your host, Barbara. As we wrap up today's show, we're going to dive into a fascinating story that's been making headlines recently. You may have heard that Qatar is planning to gift President Donald Trump with a $400 million airplane. But what does the Constitution say about accepting such a generous gift from a foreign government? To break it down for us, let's take a look at the laws and legal precedents surrounding foreign gifts. According to the U.S. Constitution, there are two provisions that place restrictions on the president receiving an emolument, or gift, from foreign governments, or from federal or state governments. One provision requires Congress to approve any gift from a king, prince, or foreign state, to an elected official in the United States. The other, referred to as the Domestic Emoluments Clause, prohibits the president from receiving a gift beyond salary for the job. Now, it's worth noting that Congress has expressly approved gifts from foreign governments in the past. For example, in 1877, Congress accepted the Statue of Liberty as a gift from France. And, more recently, President Barack Obama received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009, which included $1.4 million in cash, without congressional consent. A memo from the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Counsel determined that the prize did not violate the Constitution because the Norwegian Nobel Committee is not a king, prince, or foreign state. But who can enforce these provisions? That's still unclear, and the Supreme Court has not addressed the question. According to a report by the Congressional Research Service, members of Congress, U.S. states, and even private businesses could potentially try to sue the president if they believe a gift violates the Foreign Emoluments Clause. However, they would face challenges in establishing legal standing to bring such a case. It's also worth mentioning that there are other laws that govern foreign gifts, such as the Foreign Gifts and Decorations Act. This act sets requirements for gifts and allows the president to keep any that are worth less than $480. Gifts worth more than $480 may be accepted on behalf of the United States, which retains ownership. As we consider this story, it's essential to remember that the Constitution is designed to protect against corruption and improper influence. While the gift of a $400 million airplane may seem extravagant, it's crucial to examine the laws and precedents surrounding foreign gifts to ensure that our leaders are acting in the best interests of the country. That's all for today's Barbara's Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay engaged. That's all for today's Barbara's Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay engaged.